All right, here we go back at it again, getting set for another interesting weekend of action. We come into this thinking we're going to have a great card of racing on Saturday at Churchill, but now I don't know so much. But look, we've got 3 races to look at. It's all part of a late pick 5 if you wanted to play that. This is supposed to get about 2 inches of rain from Thursday to Saturday, so I don't know how it's going to affect the track, but I'm going to play as if it's maybe a little bit moist. How about that? All right, let's get down to business because you've got a nice grade 3 event. It's the Bango Stakes, 6.5 furlongs, race 9 on Saturday, 7 runners. Pretty simple. You see the little green marks are next to the horses that have the natural speed. And then there are other horses that might want to be up there, like Built to the outside, might want to be forwardly placed. But when you're looking at the pace, it's Harrodsburg. Has the early speed and probably has to use it all early on because the horse he's going to have to deal with is right next door, also has speed and class, and will probably let them have the lead. Speaking of cornucopian, we'll probably let them have the lead and just sit in a spot and then push right past. Cornucopian's going to be tough to beat. But Harrodsburg's not going to back off, and Cornucopia is not going to let him get too far off. So they're going to push the pace a tiny bit. I actually think this is a perfect opportunity for a horse like You Devil You to step up. We're going 6.5 furlongs. This horse likes 7 and 7.5, and I think that 6.5 is going to be nice. He was able to put together some decent performances going 6.5 furlongs. I think he's going to be in the right spot. He's not going to be too far off. I like that Johnny V has ridden this horse the last 2 times out and jumps back aboard again. Look, he's going to have to step up, but there's really nothing stopping him from doing that. And we'll get great value on the number 1, You Devil You, in the grade 3 Bango. Now we move on. Race number 10 on the card is on the turf course. No word yet on scratches, but you never know. We'll find out coming up here the next day or two, especially if the rain comes through and it affects the turf course. But taking a look at what we're working with here, set to go 1 mile and a 16th on the turf course, grade 2 wise, Dan, race number 10 on the card. So far, 9 runners standing by. So Silent Heart has some speed to the inside, but look, Laginos is a really tough horse in great form, unbelievably consistent, has won 4 in a row, looking to run it to 5 in a row, and pace doesn't really matter. But here's the thing, with Silent Heart being really the only true speed, maybe Laginos sits a little closer than he probably wants to. And then that's what's going to set it up for the runner that always comes running but really needs some help up front. And that is Fort Washington. I really like this horse, and I think the horse will be decent value because of what's happening with Laginos. The horse always makes a great run. He has a nice closing kick. Just needs a little something in front, and they just might get it. They just might get that. So we'll see how it works out for this runner, who I like in good form and has won at 4 different tracks. I like that quite a bit for Fort Washington. And like I said, he'll be some value. He'll be some value, that's for sure. All right, then we get to what's supposed to be the biggie of the bunch, but is now just one of those standard, dumb races that happens all the time. It's a $2 million race, and they'll be lucky if they have a field of 5. So we've already heard Forge Steel, Navajo Warrior, out. And then we also heard the connections of Willie D's. Before those other runners scratched, they were saying, hey, we're probably going to opt for a race somewhere else unless we can be guaranteed a top 5 finish. Well, now you're guaranteed a top 5 finish if the horse that I believe is the only real speed horse in the race stays in, and that's Willie D's to the inside. He's the only real speed horse, and Luis Saez knows how to do that on the front end. He's outstanding. Under normal circumstances, is he good enough to win this race? Absolutely not. But now with the 2 horses to the outside that have some speed that are out of this race, and look, here's the really big part. Willie D's is 3rd off the layoff, loves to go to the front end, just needs a proper situation to do that. Here's that situation. Because, we already got rid of Forge Steel. So then the other horse that has some speed is the horse that's coming back off the layoff. Here's why this is tricky. Hey, Magnitude has proven that he's a horse that you cannot play games with. He will run you off your feet And he can also sit just off of the pace and then take over like he did in the Grade 2 Clark and even like he did in the Razorback. He's sitting right there. So he'll have the chance to sit right there with Willie D's. Here's my issue. The workouts are great, but I always worry about horses coming back from Dubai. So they always give them a freshening, right? And then I just feel like they need the race coming back off the layoff. These horses run great off the layoff, but coming back from Dubai is a completely different situation. If the connections of Willie D's are smart, and I think that they might be, they're going to stay in this race and try to steal it and get away from everybody. That's the only way they can win this race, and I think they kind of have to try that. So then you've got the other runners that can also kind of sit just right there and then make the move. Wide Barrio, another question. We're worried about whether the stewards are going to have an issue with this runner like they did for the Breeders' Cup in California in November of last year. He's just a really, really consistent, good horse. But I think he still needs something to run at. Like last time out, he got away with the fact that for some strange reason, Sovereignty was on the front end dictating the fractions. Like, dude, you don't belong up there. What are you doing? And so Wide Barrio was able to take care of his business. Obviously, on that particular day, Sovereignty was not at his best because he was coming back off a little bit of a freshening as well. He hadn't run since August of 25. So he'd been gone for a while. He needed that race. But here's the problem with Sovereignty. He can't be too close. And I think it dulls his kick if he's too close early on. But we don't know what the pace scenario is going to look like in here because if Willie D scratches out officially, now you've got Magnitude on the front end, who's tough, but I just don't think he can take him all the way around coming back off the layoff. So now you've got a murky pace scenario, which might put Sovereignty back close to the front end again, which is dumb. But then there's a horse that I feel like he's just rounding into form, and it doesn't matter what happens in front of him. And that's going to be my pick, Baeza, the horse that I remember saying, there's no way the horse gets into the Kentucky Derby 2 years ago. Last year. And then he gets in and runs a great race. And he ends up winning the Pennsylvania Derby with whatever. But I just think he needed that run last time out, obviously. And now he's second off the layoff. I think he's a horse that's got sneaky tactical speed. And here's the thing, he's 4 years old now, so he's bigger, right? A little bit stronger, a little bit faster than he was. I just think he gets the better trip, and he's got to get the jump so he can run down who's ever on the lead. I'm going to take the chance and get some value here with Baeza, and then we'll see what happens. Once again, it's a race that's kind of been changed by the scratches. Also, we don't know what's going to happen with the weather. There could be some wet weather coming through. So it's one of those things where we'll take a chance and see what happens. We're not going to spend a lot. We're going to make it pretty simple, and I suggest you play that late pick 5 as well. Try to hammer that, and I'll obviously keep an eye on the weather. That's going to change some things big time. All right, there we go. That's how we do it here on Horse Race Bets. In the meantime, in between time, until next time, I'm Ken Rudulph. Hey, do me a favor. Good luck to you, and enjoy whatever you're into. We'll see you next time.